This is the Happy House Hunters free meetup group, and we meet up once a month, the first Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock, and we have a different topic every month. We are going through the 6 F's of real estate. So we go through the finding of the real estate, then the funding of the real estate, finally the fixing of the real estate, then the flipping, the filling, and finally the freedom. What is your freedom number? There's Tim. Hi, Tim. And so anyway, we've covered the finding of the real estate in January, and then we did the funding of real estate in February, and tonight we're talking about fixing. And so I'm going to share some of my properties and what I've done on some of my fixes and how involved some of those have become or not. There's some good ones and some bad ones. It's the way it is. And then I also want to mention Stephanie, for those of you that don't know, that have seen Stephanie on the calls. And for those of you that are in the mastermind that have seen Stephanie, I see I've got some folks in the waiting room here. Sorry, I'm going to be kind of back and forth here while I get folks in. Sorry about that. So for those of you that are in the mastermind that either do or maybe don't know Stephanie, we lost her after a couple of weeks in the hospital. She passed away last Tuesday morning, quite suddenly and very unexpected for us. And so we're all still mourning that whole situation. And so I was just mentioning to Kyle and to Derek that I want to start a small nonprofit that we can collect donations and help folks that want to get their real estate license with a scholarship. So that's in the works. You'll find some information about that at the Kathy Benner International Academy. That is going to be the go-to place. The Kathy Benner International Academy online is where you will find all of the free replays of all of the actual meetups that we've had all through 2020 and so far in 2021. All those speakers are recorded there. So please feel free to jump over there. And again, I'm still just kind of watching the door here to see who's coming in. So bear with me as I jump around a little bit. So anyway, please visit the Kathy Benner International Academy. That is where you'll find the recordings. That is also where you'll find our mastermind information and the 6 F's of real estate course information. All of that is actually housed on the Kathy Benner International Academy. So I'm going to share my screen and just show you a couple of properties, and I'll kind of give you an idea. When I first decided I was going to buy real estate, I bought a condo. And of course, for those of you that have purchased condos, you realize that they're kind of easy, pretty much turnkey. I was nervous and excited about having my own piece of real estate, but there just wasn't a lot of maintenance to do. So the whole fixing piece was kind of good because it was a brand new build and I didn't have to worry about, things breaking quite so soon since I had just moved in on a brand new build. So I was there about 10 years and built some equity there, and decided that I was going to start my own business, but instead of renting property, well, I did rent the first couple of years, and start a salon. I was in the salon business, and so instead of renting forever, I realized that I really needed to invest more in my retirement. I didn't have any retirement built up, so I decided after a couple of years of renting and building up my client base and also building up my staff that it was time to buy a piece of property. So this is the first property. Does that look familiar, Derek?
Yes, it does.
Anyway, this was my very, very first commercial property that I purchased. I still own it today. It is totally paid for. My retirement plan, and this is a little bit off topic of fixing, but of course you have to keep things fixed up to, in order for them to have value. But when I started purchasing and I knew that I wanted to build up a retirement plan, this was a salon, and in a salon business in Central Ohio, especially, salons are, there is a type of salon that's called a booth rent salon or an independent contractor salon. And so in that type of a salon, the girls pay a booth rent, or they rent a chair or a table, so to speak. And so what I did is I got a mortgage on this building. And then as I collected the booth rent from my stylist and nail techs, I would then pay the mortgage and the property taxes and insurance or whatever I needed to pay. And so over a period of 20 years, because I took out I think a 15 or 20-year note on this, my staff basically bought me a building. Well, once I knew that that strategy was going to work for me, I ended up buying 4 more. I had a total of 5. So I ended up retiring after 20 years in the salon industry with 5 salons. But in reality, what that meant for me is I ended up retiring with 5 commercial buildings paid for. So anyway, that was my retirement plan, and that's more of my freedom number speech. But this particular house, you can kind of see off in the distance, there is another house there. This is on a street in a small community. We're in Canal Winchester, Ohio. And what happened is the entire block was already zoned commercial, but 3 of the houses right in the center of the block, including this one, was still used as a residence. And so what happened in that situation is that we had to change the use from, even though it was zone commercial, we had to change the use from a residential use over to a retail commercial use. And that's where it got interesting. This was my first one. So, and of course, this was my biggest project. After that, I learned my lesson. I learned to find commercial buildings that were already the use that I wanted, not only the zoning that I wanted, but this one was not. So this one was our first one. So the first thing they made us do is there was a big debate over the antique door. You can't see the antique door very well in this picture, but my door is the original 1908 door with the oval glass in it. And so since we're in downtown Canal Winchester, the Landmarks Commission, which is kind of their historical society name for their, I think there's landmarks, probably commissions in a lot of small towns. They said that we could not get rid of anything that was historic. So we could not get rid of, excuse me, of the 1908 wood door. Not that we wanted to, but they said we couldn't. Well, then the state of Ohio said, well, but you have to, because you have to have handicapped accessibility, and you have to have a 36-inch door, which that was not. And the landmark says, no, you're not allowed to. And the state of Ohio said, yes, you have to. And here we are in the middle going, could you two like duke it out and then just let us know the answer so we know what to do here? And so finally what happened was the state of Ohio and the Landmarks Commission in Canal Winchester did come to terms that if we put in a 36-inch door in the back and put our handicap ramp in the back, then we would not have to touch this historic door in the front. So, okay, we were okay with that. So we did that. Then they said, well, because your ramp and everything's going to be in the back, you have to have a paved parking lot, which most of the businesses in Canal Winchester do not. So now we had to have a paved parking lot. Well, because of the way all the land is laid out right there, we were the high spot on the block. So once we paved our backyard, all of our rainwater was going to run into both of the neighbors' yards on each side of us. And so at that point, we had to go forward with topological engineers, and we had to, get involved with, putting in drainage and, underground catch basins and tie into the street, to the rainwater, so that we could eliminate all of that rain in the backyard. And then they made us go in, last but not least, and we had to put pillars all through our basement to support the floors, because they said with a salon business where you could have 12 girls. Now think about this, you're going to have 12 staff, which means each one of them might have a customer. So now there's 24 people, but then oftentimes you have a customer that you're not quite finished with when your next customer comes in. So now each staff person could have 2 customers. And then if they happen to bring their daughter or their family or somebody else comes along, all of a sudden you can do the math and realize just how many people would be in that building at one time. So they made us put in floor supports all the way through. So that's what we had to do to get started. And since then, once we did that and we got our occupancy, we got moved, and again, I had a successful salon there for 20 years. I physically worked in this front room right there. That was where my station was. And I worked right there for 20 years. And then since then, once I retired, which I've just now been retired 3 years. I thought I would never retire, and I actually got to retire early. So now I just need to maintain the building, and I've turned it into an office building. And so now we have 6 different office suites inside the building. And so now it's cash flowing 100%, other than the property taxes and the insurance and some maintenance issues. So Derek, jump in and tell us what Derek's my guy. He's my go-to guy, and he actually has worked on this building for me a couple of times. So Derek, tell us what you did there to kind of dress that up a little bit.
Well, you can kind of see in the picture the columns and the railings and all that was there, but there was some rot over to the left. And, well, I think it was worse over on the right.
Yeah,
the right column, and then at the very top of that column. And before I did my work, those railings were sagging because of the rotted column. And then there were no tops on the railing there. So those are decorative. And we basically just had to go and submit. Oh, also the skirt under the porch was lattice. And
probably from Lowe's, the staple up kind of lattice.
Yeah, it was really cheap and ugly. And so the Landmarks guys wanted us to submit our ideas, which we did. I went with Kathy and Mark and get them approved. And then I did the work of restoring that and making it pretty again.
Yes. And thank you very much for that, Derek. And then he worked on the ramp in the back, and he did the same thing. He worked on some of the surface boards on the deck, on the ramp. He also put the decorative pieces on.
Yeah, we put matching tops there. And then the one, Kathy, the one in the middle, the post, the halfway post, that one I also put a top on. It didn't have anything on that. So I made a decorative, all that was custom. So none of that was anything you could purchase at a store. I made it. So I enjoy doing that kind of thing.
Anyway, what we did here, because this falls into the Landmarks category, is that, like Derek said, number one, we had to go and get permission from Landmarks to do it. They wanted to see what we were going to do. But on the other side of that coin, they also had, and make a note of this, they had a grant that if I did everything according to their requirements, that they would pay a certain amount, up to 50% of the betterments and improvements that I did on the facade of this building. And so I did receive a 50% grant. And so that was very helpful, for me maintaining. And of course, Landmarks wants the buildings to look nice, and I want to keep the buildings maintained. And so we knew, like Derek said, we had some rot in these posts. And again, it's all slate roof. So I've done several slate roof repairs as needed. I've resurfaced the whole underside here of the ceiling part of the porch. And so now Derek may not remember, but Derek's on my list to work on the actual deck part of the porch and of the ramp as it weathers. So it is a constant maintenance thing, but that's okay. Because you're gonna grow your income and your asset a lot of different ways, and of course one of the ways is just appreciation of the property, and so the best thing to do is to keep everything very well maintained. when you're doing that. Now, the next purchase, and this one's a special little purchase for me. And this is what it looked like when I bought it. It looks a little nicer now. You can see that there's, some little trees growing here in the gutters, and there's some damage here in the soffit and some vines growing up under the siding. And so this one has been cleaned up since I purchased it, but this is a cute little purchase. This was my, other than my condo being my first, and then my commercial building being my second, this becomes my third purchase. When my mother was very ill, she had some bond money that she had never cashed in, and they had been in my dad's name, and she'd never changed them over to her name. So she said, let's just cash these, because she said, if I should pass away, she said, you'll never get them cashed. And I said, oh, okay, whatever. So I took her to the bank. Long story short, we got them cashed, and the teller handed her $10,000. And so she said, okay, let's go. And I said, well, where do you want to go? Are you going to put these in a different bank account? She goes, nope. She goes, I'm going to give this $10,000 to you. And I'm like, what? And she said, yeah. She said, you've been helping me, so this is your $10,000. Well, I didn't want to just put $10,000 in my bank account, because I know that by the time you make a few car payments and take a couple of vacations and pay off some, credit card debt or whatever you might have, that $10,000 isn't going to last for very long. And it was kind of an emotional thing for me, because this $10,000 represented my dad, and then it also represented my mom. And I said, I'm going to buy something. I'm going to put it into real estate. Now, I don't know what I can do with $10,000, but it would be a down payment on something. I found this little cottage in a campground, so I don't own the land. You can see how close this other little cottage is back here. I just own the building. But I paid, okay, folks, hang on to your hats. I paid $6,500 for this little cottage, and it is a 3-bedroom. Now, it's a tiny 3-bedroom. It's tiny house living, but I came in and cleaned it up, had brand new windows in it, and it had a brand new air unit. I put some new vinyl in the kitchen and in the bathroom, a couple of new fixtures, painted the inside, and then I cleaned up the outside, fixed the little soffit area here that's rotted, and cleaned up the vines, got it all cleaned up. And this house has been renting for $650 a month ever since I bought it, and I paid $6,500 for it. So that's just my little side story on what I did with. I did the whole thing, the vinyl, the fixtures, everything for the $10,000. So then. I mentioned that with the salon business, it was really working well for me. So I bought 2 more salons. So these are the 2. This is 2 separate buildings. You can kind of see my signature color. Derek's familiar with my signature color. All the outsides of my buildings are Tony Taupe by Sherwin-Williams, and all the insides are Balanced Beige by Sherwin-Williams. And so that way, when tenants leave or move, all I have to do is just a little touch up. I don't have to paint a whole room. And sometimes if I have to paint a whole wall, I don't have to trim it. I can just paint whatever needs touched up, and I can flip things very quickly that way. So this, the top one is a salon in Lancaster. The bottom one is a salon in Groveport. And this top one, it even came with 3 1-bedroom units attached to it in the back, and all of that is rented. So I love that. So I took care of my dad back in the day, who was diagnosed with cancer until he passed. And then I took care of my mom, and she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. We never did test to whether it was cancerous or not, but I took care of her until she passed. And I was able, this is the home my dad built right here. And this is the home my mother lived in. And so she gave me that home, and I was able, upon the passing of both of my parents, I was able to leverage that home and buy these 3. And so this one is a duplex. This one is a large single family 4-bedroom. And then this is a smaller 3-bedroom. And so I was able to leverage this one and buy these 3 more properties with it. So again, you can do that as well as you grow your real estate portfolio. And when we bought it, This one, you can see the roof line up here, and it doesn't show in this picture, but the whole roof line was like sinking in the center. The roof line was kind of sinking. And so Mark and I went, it's a walk-up attic. You can see the windows here where it's a stand-up walk-up attic. And when Mark and I actually went into that attic, he designed and engineered a fix for that by putting, okay, let's get rid of this guy. Okay, does somebody know how to remove him?
No.
I can't even see him now. Sorry, I'm gonna have to stop my share. I don't see where he is now. Bear with me just a moment till I find this person. Yep, I don't see him now. I don't know who that was. Do you know who it was? Anybody?
It said Eddie something.
I'm looking through my list.
It went from Francis to Frank. Then to Eddie. One of those Zoom bombers.
Yeah, there's the Zoom bombers, but I can't, I don't know who it is to remove here. I'm looking for their name.
I think he's gone.
Yeah, because I see some folks that I'm not familiar with their names. So if flag me if that happens again, because I can't really, once I share my screen, I can't really see them. It just happened to pop up and I'm like, oh, let's don't do that. So let me know if that pops up again. So anyway, Mark went into the attic, and you can see these attic windows here, and he went into the attic and he engineered some sort of a brace type mechanism. He built it out of wood, and he put some come-alongs on it, and it was like a scissor, and he just lifted that roof back up. He just would go over and turn that come-along in that, and he made a box all four sides, and then every week he would turn it just a couple of turns, and very gradually he brought that roof back up straight. And then we just had our slate guy come in and do a review on the whole slate, and he had a couple of pieces to finish up, and we've not had any leaks. So that's how we fixed that one. This one didn't require anything except floor coverings. It had some laminate floor in this one that folks, it was probably a do-it-yourselfer. And what happened is the floor was so tight. It was a floating floor. For any of you guys that have done a floating floor, it was so tight that it was starting to buckle. And so what we did is we just took all of that out and just started over. And then this last one, it was in contract, and then the person left the deal. They walked out of the deal because there was a little flat roof on the back on like a mother-in-law's suite on this one that was leaking, and they could see a little bit of mold starting on the underside of the ceiling in the closet where that leak was. Is somebody back on again?
It sounds like it.
I wish I knew who it was and I would boot him out, but I don't see him offhand. But anyway, on the underside of that one where it was leaking, we just replaced the whole rubber roof on that and pulled that ceiling down in the closet, and the mold was just self-contained right there in that one little spot. And so that wasn't hard for us to fix after all. And so then, since we had the salon paying down things and some tenants that were paying down things, I then leveraged my equity and I bought 2 more houses. These are pictures of the outside and inside of these houses. And again, carpet and paint was mostly what we did. This bottom one is a very, very old house. It actually has the rough hewn timbers inside in the basement back from the late 1800s. I still don't see who that is. So bear with me. I think I saw him this time. So anyway, there was the rough hewn timbers in this one, great big timbers. And so the floors were starting to sag. And so Mark and our maintenance guy went to the basement of this house. They actually dug out and poured a footer, just a long, thin but deep footer, and put support post right down the center of the cellar of this house. And then again, just made some turns on it and brought that floor up level before we carpeted. And then this is what the kitchen looks like in this bottom house. So we were able to do that. So then I finally had some cash where I could pay some cash for my own properties. And so then we started buying properties for cash. These two are in Sandusky, and then this last one is in Springfield. And then from there, we decided to open our own house up as a bed and breakfast. And so I run a bed and breakfast from my residential house, and Derek's done some work for me on this one as well. And then finally we bought a property in Florida, and just recently I sold this one and bought a different one in Florida. We wanted to get closer to the coast and a little further south. So anyway, so that's what I've done in all of my fixes. Most of my properties have just been, carpet and paint, that sort of thing. And I still don't see who's on. I can hear him, but I don't see him.
Monkey.
No, it's Maxwell Buchanan or whatever you say. Buchanan, however you say his name.
Yeah.
Keep switching his. There's Frank.
Frank, kick him off.
Frank is one.
Yes. Frank needs to go. Is Pablo now?
No,
He
he's
changed his
Pablo.
name.
Now he's gone.
Anyone else?
If they don't show their face, we might as well kick them off too.
Oh, well, hold on. There we go.
Chris is like, don't kick me off. Chris, I know you. I know you. I've got a Dion. Is there a Dion?
It must not be serious. Oh, he's serious.
All right, who do we have? We've got Jason, Debbie, Chris, Vince.
Yeah, maybe ask Dion again.
There's 10, so there's only one that I don't know who it is.
We vote Parquet off the island.
Yeah, we're voting you off the island. Do I have a Jason on here? No.
Wait, Dion raised his hand.
Okay. So I can't tell there's Dion. So I can't. Yep. Yeah, we've got some trollers, and we're trying to decide who's trolling and who isn't.
Kathy,
I think we're all valid.
I don't
Yep,
know.
let's see.
Okay. All right. So I am going to open it up for questions. And Derek, tell us a little bit about some of the projects you're working on, and then I can actually monitor the screen a little better, and I'll let you talk a little bit about some of the fixes that you're doing.
Okay. Well, this past year, I'm actually finishing my third flip for other owners. It's not my deal. So one of them was for Giovanna, who's part of this group. And then one was for a couple that I met at a real estate investing seminar a long time ago. And they bought a house in Upper Arlington and then rehabbed it to live in. So that was a great project. And then I'm currently finishing a full house rehab in Grandview. And throughout the year, I've done a lot of other projects as well. I do a lot of smaller things, bathrooms and kitchens and things like that. But this year has been really great as far as doing whole house projects like that. And it's not my first time. I've done a lot of them through the years. I started out when I was in college. And most of those rehabs were in Victorian Village back in the 90s. And I've done some on my own houses. One in Groveport. I did one in Pennsylvania back in 2003 with a partner. So that's kind of like my specialty is carpentry, electrical mostly. And I picked up a lot of business from people I know. It's all been very, what do you call that, organic. I haven't done a lot of marketing. I mean, I do have a Facebook page, but typically it's friends of friends. So
give us some of your give us some of the problem cases, something that maybe you've had that you weren't expecting and how you solved it.
Yeah, there's always problems. And I would say if you're investing and buying a property, put in a buffer, because you don't know what you can't see. Even a home inspector won't see a lot of things. Kathy mentioned mold, and that's really not as scary as some people think it is. I'm allergic to it, but I still deal with it. I think some of the big things to watch for are, your major things like asbestos, lead, those kinds of things. If they pop up, you may have to pay a lot of money to get them removed. Asbestos doesn't always have to be removed. So I've run into a lot of things where it's, okay, let's replace this window, and then the whole wall is rotted, like, completely inside. But framing is cheap and easy and quick, so it's not the end of the world. A lot of old houses have sagging floors, and that's really actually pretty easy to fix too. Like you said with Mark, you have a specific size footer, and then you put a support in there and you jack it up and you're done. Yeah, I mean, I've run into a lot of things, and another thing that I've noticed is that people often cover up problems rather than taking out the problem and replacing it. And so my number one rule is don't cover it. I will start from scratch. I will take it out and fix it and make it right before I will cover something.
I get that. And when you buy a house that has vinyl siding, I always wonder what's underneath that vinyl siding.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot out there, and I guess as you work on properties, you learn more, and just always put a buffer in. I don't know if you're going to talk about this, Kathy, but estimating costs is something that I'm pretty good at too. If you want to get into that later.
Well, and we all get better as the more we purchase and the more we have to repair some of these properties. We all do get better at estimating. In our Happy House Hunters group, we do have an estimator form, and so some of the folks that are on this call have used that form before, and that's very, very helpful. And then I like Derek, I always round off high, because as soon, like you said, as soon as you start to tear into a wall or a window, and you find more damage, it's not as dramatic as HGTV makes out it to be. Once they take a window out, then the whole thing goes to a screeching halt, and they go to commercial, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what's this going to cost? And it's not quite that scary, but
No.
So anyway.
Yeah, I think also this year was different because a lot of the material costs went up. And whenever you have a short supply of labor, then labor costs go up as well. So you really need to get someone in there before you purchase the property to make sure you have those costs in line for the time period that you're in, and that does fluctuate.
And finding contractors seems to be so difficult right now. I'm not sure, what that's all about, other than there's just the whole supply and demand. There's not a lot of properties on the market. So folks, I think, that are staying put are fixing some more property. They're fixing up instead of selling in some cases. And so it's really hard to get a contractor. And then I always teach my group, the Happy House Hunters group, that you're gonna come up with a team that you work well with after a while. And so when you try a contractor and they do a job for you, if you really, really like them, please pay them upfront and on time. Don't drag your feet paying them if you really like them. And even if you don't like them, and if you decide that's not exactly the work I wanted, please pay them and let them move on, and then keep them on your list. Now, you may say that's kind of an odd statement if you didn't care for their work, but I keep them on my list. I may put them to the bottom of my list, but I keep them on my list because if I have an emergency with as short as contractors are these days, they might be the only person that I can get a hold of that'll respond to my emergency. So if I have, water coming through the ceiling, the guy that didn't do the best work might still be able to go and stop the water from coming through the ceiling. So I still keep them on my list. I never burn any bridges. I'm still trying to teach Mark that. And so, so please pay your contractors on time, and, and just let them move on, and don't call them unless you need to, but keep them on your list. So, I'd like to hear a little bit from, now Chris looks like he's working down there. I see him looking at his computer. So Chris, I'd like to hear a little bit about some of your rehab. You've just finished 2 units and you've got a 3rd one underway to get rented. So what struggles did you have in the fixing part?
Contractors.
That seems to be the problem.
Yep. Hit a lot of things and time, and went through 2 contractors. First one didn't do a great job. Used Kathy's standards of pay them and finish the job and move on. And the second one actually just bailed on me.
Wow.
So luckily enough, I had the skills to jump in, and I wrapped it up, and it was far enough along that I could handle it. But time's my biggest factor. Actually, I just rented that out. The other side of it, it's rented out. They move in tomorrow.
Okay, good. So give us kind of a time frame when you first purchased, because you bought a duplex and you had to rehab both sides. What kind of a time frame to get the first one rehabbed and actually get it rented? And this was the one you went through a couple of contractors, am I correct?
I went through the one contractor. So here, I'll start from the beginning and I'll try to sum it up. In mid-June, I closed on the house. There's tenants in it. They moved out probably into July. I started rehabbing myself, quickly realized I don't have the time to do it with all my work stuff going on. And so I looked for a contractor, and I found somebody, and they came in, and I gave them some standards. Well, they missed a lot of stuff, and I'm able to go through and I can see, well, you're missing a giant gap there, or that's not right, that's not level, whatever it may be. So lots of corrections later, we finally get that side done, and I have them start on the other side. Well, I get that side rented, and it's December, and then I finally get it rented at the end of December. By the way, I learned this: trying to rent from November to December is probably the worst time. I found out. I think Kathy did the open house for me, and what'd you get? Like three people?
3 or 4 was all that came. Mm-hmm. But it was at the holidays. Yeah, right at the holidays.
Yeah. So I don't recommend holidays at all. It took me probably a little over a month to get that one filled. This last one for the other side, I probably got 50 people in an hour and too many applications to go through. And I got it filled in less than a week. So big difference.
Yeah, that's been my experience too, is that people don't want to move it after they get their Christmas tree up. They don't want to move. They want to wait till after Christmas.
Yep.
I get that. Yep.
And definitely the case here. So back to my story. They were working on the other side, and it got to the point where I just was like, okay, here, we'll say this is done. There's definitely stuff missing. And I incorporated another contractor in, and these were more contractors that were more general, didn't specify in anywhere. And he was doing a decent job. And then one day he just stopped showing up and said, oh yeah, I'll be out there today. I'll be out there today. I'll be out there today. And just didn't show up. So I couldn't, it got to the point where I couldn't even pay him because he stopped returning my phone calls. So technically I haven't paid him because I can't get a hold of him.
That's just odd to me.
I don't know what happened, but I ended up finishing a lot of it, and I called kind of specialists for certain things. So we eventually got it filled in. So
wow.
That's just the one duplex, and the other one I actually plan on resuming and finishing up next week.
Okay.
Or not finishing up. Let me take that. Starting again, restarting.
Okay.
So, Derek, I might reach out to you.
Sure. Yeah. No problem.
Now, Derek, if you want, put your contact information in the chat for everyone. If you feel you want to do that. Debbie
Sure,
had asked. Yeah, Debbie had asked, and
she already contacted me. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
And for those of you that may or may not know this, if you open up your chat, right where you start to type a message, you'll see 3 little dots on the right-hand side. If you click those, you can actually save the chat. So if there's anything in the chat box that you want to save, you can just open up the chat, click on the 3 little dots, and save the entire chat. That's helpful in any Zoom meetings that you're in. If folks are putting contact information in the chat, you don't have to try to write it down. So, David, how about you? Would you care to share a little bit about your experience? I know you're struggling with one right now, I think.
Absolutely. Well, we actually have, I suppose, 2 projects going on. So there's the little efficiency apartment that's actually behind our house in Canal Winchester that we're redoing ourselves. So we did actually hire somebody to come in and do some major demo because there were some cinder block walls, and this ceiling, it's a 10 by 18 foot building with a full basement. So it's a very odd little, it's hard to know why it even exists. But we are going to make the most of it. So the ceiling in this thing, it was actually tongue and groove planks with mesh and concrete plastered onto it. So it was built like a bomb shelter, and we wanted all that torn out. So we just hired somebody to come in and demo it, bring in the dumpster, and just spend some time ripping it all out. We started, and it took us an hour to clear out a little 3-foot hole so we could even see what was in the ceiling.
And what was there?
Well, I mean, that's how we figured out what was. I thought it was going to be drywall, just going to punch a hole through it and then just start grabbing on and ripping it out. No such luck. So, but now we are starting to put it back together. So we're building a little sleeping loft to make some more space. The bathroom in this one was a toilet in what would be the bedroom section of the apartment, a vanity right inside the front door, just kind of freestanding in, I suppose you call it your living room, and a shower that was in the basement underneath the stairs. So
I see Kyle laughing. Kyle was involved in that property, and so and I've been inside it too. So I see Kyle kind of chuckling at your description, but it was very accurate. It
was a very unique and amusing place, And yes, we have Kyle to thank for the fact that we own it now. But so we're putting a bathroom upstairs. So it'll be I guess they call it a 3/4 bathroom. So it's going to have a little shower stall, no tub, a small sink and a toilet, and that'll all be upstairs. A little pocket door so that takes up less space. I'm going to put the kitchen in the basement. That's where it was. But all that was there was a utility sink as the sink, a 3/4 size refrigerator and a microwave. So that was the whole kitchen. So we'll put, probably keep the 3/4 size fridge because that's about appropriate for the apartment. We'll put an actual stove and an actual kitchen sink down there with a counter. And we've torn out most of the cinder block. Why anybody needed to put a cinder block wall through the middle of a 10 by 18 foot room, I'll never know. But that's been torn out now and fully opened up. So that's one we're doing on our own. And then
Now, let me ask you, how much do you think you'll have in the rehab on that one? And how much do you think you can bring in on rent once it's done?
So we're trying to keep the rehab at $10,000. Well, Tammy's trying to keep it at 10,000. I'm imagining it might be 15, but that's kind of our budget. And then we're shooting for a 600 to 650 rent.
Okay.
I think we're going to have a adorable little tiny house apartment that some millennials just going to love.
So now, when you think about that, let's say that he does end up putting 15,000, to be, I like to round high and divide that by 650 because everything's going to be brand new. I mean, you can't hardly rent anything for under that these days. We're talking 24 months to recoup the rehab cost. If you could apply the whole 650.
Really?
Yeah, if you could apply.
That's outstanding. I hadn't done that math yet.
So you see where that's not a bad return for his investment. And then once he does the rehab, of course, the whole property is going to come up in value. It's going to appreciate in value. And then, of course, over time, it's going to appreciate in value. And then, of course, over time, he's going to be paying off the mortgage note on that. So overall, he's going to make money, 3 or 4 different ways on that property. So that is not a bad investment at all.
Cool, good. Like hearing that. Yeah, the other one is a duplex that we recently purchased in Lancaster.
Yep, I was going to ask you to share about that one.
Yeah, so this is one where a house flipper, we'd actually looked at it before the flipper purchased, decided that at the time it was more than we were ready to take on. We were still, green to this business. We're still very green, but we were even greener then. So we passed on it initially. And then it came back around after the flipper, he'd actually gotten, we'll call it 3/4, maybe, well, probably more than that of the way done, and fell ill. So they actually put it on the market before finishing. So now we're in there trying to kind of put the finishing touches on it. Fortunately, we've been able to work with him to get some of his contractors involved because it did need all new windows. So we actually have those installed now. It's all throughout. It's an up-down duplex. I think there's a total of 18 windows. Learning a little bit about working with flippers and some contractors. Got just an incredible, what we thought was way too good to be true price on windows. Well, because it was way too good to be true. It was about $6,000 to get 18 windows installed.
Which is a great price.
Which is
at face value.
So we found out that it literally meant installed. So they took out whatever trim they had to, they put a window in place, they screwed it into the jamb, and they're done. So these are all replacement windows. There's some old aluminum storm windows that are on the outside. These are double pane replacement windows with built-in screens. They don't need the storm windows, but now I have multiple layers of windows and screens on the outside of the building, or outside of the house. Putting the windows in did not include replacing all of the trim. So now we're going to have to pay extra to get the trim actually done, get those windows and the storm windows removed, the flashing replaced around the outside on the aluminum siding. And as I thought about it, if I were a flipper, it might make some sense because I'm going to have my carpenter who's going to do all my finishing trim. And I might have my guy who works on the vinyl siding or the aluminum siding is going to be working on the outside. And I could have just a general laborer just throw some windows in and screw them in place. And that's exactly what we have here. We just didn't know that.
So now what is your fix for that?
More money.
So you have to now find someone else?
Well, we are sticking with this Contractors. I mean, the prices are still relatively good. We'll still get out of the windows. It's going to be $9,000 instead of $6,000 for 18 windows. I still think this is a great deal. Yeah, it's just not as good a deal as imagined. And then we're finding, and this is next time we buy a house from a flipper, we're going to pull back every cover, look under everything, open every door, peek our head in every crevice. It's very clear that the goal is to make it look pretty, not to make it durable. And unfortunately, we want to put renters in there. What's more important to me is the durability.
Right.
So we're spending a little time kind of shoring things up and making sure that the pretty things that are there are going to last.
Now,
And
what type of...
so we have to get a roofer in there and replace the roof also. So they painted over some water stains, and lo and behold, they're coming back. So now we have to get a new roof on it.
Does it need a whole new roof, or does it just need some roof repair?
The porch needs a whole new roof. It actually has a flat section that's supposed to be rubber that somebody tried to repair with just some tar. So that's one of the leaks. And then the shingles are dry rot. We do have a quote on it now and an estimate, which is actually a fairly good price as well. We need to pour through that. That just came in today, so I haven't looked through it completely.
What type of an overall rehab budget do you think you're going to have on that one?
This one is, I don't know. I honestly don't know, Kathy. It's kind of come at us rather quickly. So we've been, as problems come up, thrown the money at it. I mean, it hasn't been an exorbitant amount, but we've just thrown the money at it to take care of that little thing that we just need to get done so it's ready to rent. And what we're realizing is that it's not a little thing, it's this train of little things. So that's something we need to get our arms around, is what it's actually going to cost us. I think it'll still be a good value in the end. It'll make us money. Certainly what we can rent it for will cover whatever loan, mortgage, whatever we have to pay off. It will pay for itself. But yeah, we're having to come up with some capital up front to get what looked like an almost done house to, well, actually it looked like an all but done house to actually be done.
Okay, so your big expenses though are going to be the roof repair, and the window installations. Those are your two biggies? I
hope so.
Okay.
But it's just, funny examples of some of the things we've run into. So like I said, it was an up-down. Well, the downstairs apartment, the water, not to a single faucet, but to the entire apartment was hooked up backwards. So you flush the toilet and it fills with hot water. You run the dishwasher and it fills with cold water. I mean, throughout the entire apartment was backwards. Upstairs, not so bad, but the kitchen was hooked up backwards. So I actually did get the guy who was doing the work. He did send his plumber back out to fix the basement at no cost to us. I took care of the kitchen sink upstairs. And then it was advertised as having new hot water tanks. But the newest one was dated. It actually had stickers on them with a date. And the newest one was 20 years old. It was 2000 was when it was manufactured. So we came, because we did buy it as is. So at some point, it's not his fault that we own it, but came to agreement. We bought the water heaters, and he had his guy actually install them for us. So got a little compromise there.
Okay. So again, all in all, it's going to turn out to be, an investment in the long game, which real estate generally is. And you're going to come out on top on that one over time. Time is going to be your friend on that particular situation.
And I would agree with that one. But we're just finding out that what appeared turnkey was far from it. But yes, in the long run, it'll still be a good deal. And it's just one of those lessons learned as you start into the business. Next time we'll know to plan for turnkey to be more of a suggestion than a reality, and look a little more closely. But I think this one will be a good deal for us. As I think about what I would have done differently had I known everything I know now, honestly, I might have held out for $5,000 less on the purchase price compared to what we paid. So really not dramatically. I wouldn't have done anything dramatically different if I'd known up front. It's just, they're surprises this time instead of things I wish I had gone in with my eyes wide open.
Good to know. Some good lessons there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to open it up for questions. Does anybody in the group have any questions for any of the folks that presented?
Before we get those, can I tell a funny contractor story?
Sure.
Or maybe a tragic contractor story, depends on how you want to look at it. So this was my in-laws. They and it was many years ago, they hired somebody to paint the interior of their house. So I hired one contractor, one painter to come in and did the pretty much ghosting them thing that somebody else was mentioning. I think that was Chris. So they had somebody come in, gave them a quote, kind of take things off, and then just disappeared. So they had somebody else come in to finish the work. And it appeared, and at the time, I'm not sure if anybody remembers it, but many years ago, I wish I could remember the year, there was a big news story in Columbus. A woman was found, I believe she was found hung. So it was meant to look like suicide. The police figured out it was actually homicide. The lady's husband was actually the one who had killed her. And that turned out to be the person who was halfway through painting the interior of my in-law's house. So.
Oh my.
So yeah, when
you don't know what kind of bullet you dodged when your contractor walked out on you.
So when you think you're having trouble with your contractors, it could always be worse.
That is the craziest story I have heard. Wow. Okay, questions.
Wouldn't a contractor have a better way to hide a body?
He was a painter. So, you're right. They should be good at hiding mistakes because they have to clean up after all the drywallers.
Hey guys, so I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to introduce myself to the group. My name is Willa, and I'm a new investor here in Columbus. I'm very new. I invested a lot of money to teach myself, or help for people to help me learn the investing world and the right systems to use and everything. And I'm really happy to be part of this group. You guys have so much experience, and anything that you could, any advice that you could give me as a new investor, I'm really happy to hear it. So that's all.
Welcome, Willa. We're really glad that you're with us.
Yeah.
Again, you can visit Kathy Benner International Academy. I put that in the chat box.
Okay.
And all of our free recordings, the free meetups, all the replays are there. You can just click in there and listen to those. And then we do have a mastermind group that, if you're ever interested in doing that, is where we meet twice a month with our smaller group. We can't wait to get back in person.
I know.
Right now we're on Zoom like everyone else. And, but anyway, we do meet twice a month in the mastermind group, and we invite you to bring all your problems to the table, and we help talk them out between each other.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, Willa, I would definitely say if you haven't joined the mastermind group yet, these free ones here are just kind of a, like a flyby overhead of what's going on and what potential lies out there. But they actually drill down a lot more deeper into the paid mastermind. And it's just like a subscription, right, Kathy?
It is. It's a $25 a month subscription price. And then you get all of the replays on that as well. We also put actual forms. So folks that are looking for lease agreements or walkthrough check sheets, or even contractor costing evaluations, all of those forms are in the mastermind as well. And then every so often we'll throw a boot camp in there, like we'll do a rehab boot camp, or we'll do we'll do a landlord boot camp. And so right now I'm putting together the details to do a paperless office, because some of you folks that are now far enough along that you're starting to rent some properties, you're starting to realize I have to keep track of this paperwork. And so I'm getting ready to do a boot camp on that.
That's wonderful.
Any other questions?
Kathy, I was wondering about on that first commercial property you had where they came in and made you do all those renovations and upgrades. I know you said you got a grant for some of it. I was wondering if any portion of that was ever tax deductible because it was required?
No, it was not a tax deduction. What I did get, though, when I first purchased that commercial property in Canal Winchester, one of the things that I was eligible for, and I'm trying to remember what organization it came through. I think at the time, all of these small communities had a program called Main Street USA. And if the city or village or whatever little town you were in, if they participated in that folks could get some grant money there. And so at that point, I did have some deduction in my property taxes, but it wasn't an actual grant. I just had reduced property taxes for the first 10 years. But that was huge for me because that was a brand new purchase. So that was huge.
In regards to trying to find contractors, what do you guys think of the idea of trying to use Home Depot and Lowe's? So when you go to buy it from them, they have their installers.
No,
Look at Derek. Derek saying no.
Don't do it. I clean up their work all the time. They hire contractors, so you're paying extra to get a sub that's hired by Home Depot. And then they send out their new guys that don't have any experience, and they do only what they're told. So for example, you have a patio door installed, they put the door in. They don't fix any rotten wood. They don't fix any flashing that's incorrectly put in or anything like that. They don't caulk it. They do terrible work, and it's not anything specifically to any contractor. It's just it's not very well controlled. There's no quality control there. So I don't recommend that at all. The best way to find good contractors is through here, or like maybe nextdoor.com or a local Facebook group.
Well, Derek, am I correct too that the contractors generally through like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, that they have a set price for, it's like a price list, like installing a door, they earn X amount, putting in a dishwasher, they earn X amount, which is why they don't go that extra mile, because they're not going to get paid for that.
That's all they do. Yes, exactly.
No, good. Thank you.
I had ordered a dishwasher once, and I thought I'm just going to have Lowe's install it in one of my rentals, and that way I didn't have to go down and meet anybody and let them in and all of that. And I just said, deal with directly with the tenant and install the new dishwasher. And I got a call from the tenant, and the Lowe's installer was there, and he said, "I'm not able to install your dishwasher. It doesn't fit." I said, "Wasn't there a dishwasher there?" And he said, "Well, yeah, but the new one doesn't fit." I said, aren't they all kind of a standard size? And he said, yeah, but the new one doesn't fit. And I said, well, then I'm going to have to return it because, you know, I didn't have I was too far away to go down and deal with it right then. So then I called up my son-in-law, who also does some work for me. And I said, hey, when you get a day off, would you go to Lowe's, buy the exact same dishwasher that I had delivered, put it on your truck, drive it down there and install it for me? And my son-in-law did. And I said, is there a problem installing that? And he said, no. And I said, I wonder why the Lowe's installer couldn't install it. And he said, well, he said there was a piece of trim where after the old dishwasher was put in, they had trimmed across under the dishwasher and the whole thing. And he said, I had to cut that trim to put the new dishwasher in. And that's why the Lowe's installer couldn't install it. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Well, it goes with what Derek said, because that's over and above an easy in and out. And so you're right. The fee only says, nope, I'm not cutting that piece of wood.
Yeah, another example would be if your dishwasher doesn't have a receptacle behind it, there's no to they have to put in. It's really not that hard. And so you want someone who knows what they're doing and will go that extra mile. And yeah, like I said, the best way is to, you know, reach out to neighbors or someone you know, or this group or something like that to find a good one.
So Derek, do you do anything on the north side of Columbus, like Westville, Worthington, Gahanna?
Yeah, I do things all over Franklin County, and I'm in Fairfield, but I'm mostly in Franklin County. Yeah, reach out to me. I put my name in. Oh, I didn't put my first name. My first name's Derek. Last name's Steele. So we have a name. I'll put my name here. And you can look me up on there and see some of my pictures of my work. I do mostly bigger jobs, like a day or more, but sometimes if you've got multiple projects, I can come by and do all of them at once. That works better for me. I'm not really a handyman. I'm more of a contractor.
That's good to know. I'm going to be trying to use the Burr method on my first property, so it'll be a lot of projects. I want to get mostly updated before I rent it out, so do top dollar and not have many repairs afterwards.
Great.
Perfect. Well, we're over a little bit on time. It's 7:08. Is there any last questions for anyone? Comments, maybe?
Thank you, Kathy, for letting me come.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone's welcome, except our trollers.
I do have a story.
I have a non-fixed question, Kathy, if
Sure.
nobody else has any that are more in line with what we've talked about.
Or go ahead.
All right, so we want to do rent increases this year. Actually, all of the tenants we currently have, we have 4 tenants, and we purchased all of them. They came with the units that we bought when we bought them. So we were just going to do a June 1st increase, and we're preparing a letter to send out. The simple question is, you know, so we do have some with multiple names on a lease. As we're getting acceptance or acknowledgement that they know an increase is coming, do we need everybody to sign that, or is a single person in the household acknowledgement enough of the increase?
Well, first of all, let me say that you do not have to get permission from any of your tenants to increase their rent. As long as they're on, as long as you're coming up to the end of the lease, you can't change it in the middle. So it's either a month to month, or they've been on a 12-month and now it's coming to an end. You simply need to give them a 30-day or 60-day notice that this is going to be the new rent. And when you address it to them, you're going to address it very similar to how you would your 3-day notice or an eviction. You're just going to put in the folks that are listed on the lease, and then you're going to use that phrase "et al." On there to show everyone else that might be living there. You know, if the brother-in-law is in a back bedroom and whatever, staying with them, it just means everyone.
Okay.
And so you don't have to get them to sign off and send anything back to you. You're just notifying them. Now, the difference between 30-day and 60-day is on how much of an increase. And don't quote me on this, but I think, and I'd have to do my research to be sure, but I think if it's 3% or less, you have to give them a 30-day notice. If it's going to be more than that, you have to give them a 60-day notice. But you can research that. You can Google that and see what that percentage is. And I'm not familiar with the actual percentage, because the first time that I raised my rents, I hadn't raised them for a while. And so it was going to be borderline of 3% or a little more. So I did give all of my tenants a 60-day notice to give them some time to adjust to that. And so I normally just use 60 days as my standard. But the law actually says that if it's under, I think, 3%, you only have to give a 30-day. But I use 60-day as my standard.
Well, we're going June 1st for 3 of the units, and then the other one actually is on the original 12-month lease. It hadn't yet expired when we bought the place, so that's up in actually the end of April. So May 1st will be there first. We've already talked to them. We're doing essentially 5% across the board. One person, we have one unit where the rent hasn't been increased in like 7 years, so they're way under market. So they're going to get a 7 or 8% increase, and somebody else is only getting a 3%, but we're doing roughly a 5% across the board.
I would probably then make my standard practice a 60-day notice to give them time to adjust. And again, they do not need to sign off or approve it or send you back a signature. You're simply notifying them. So you'll want to do it in a couple of ways. Number one, I do it just the same way that I do a 3-day notice or an eviction. I actually tape the notice on their door and take a picture of it and then email it to myself, which date and time stamps it. And then I turn around and I mail them a copy with certified mail that they have to sign for. Now, the last time I did that, 3 of my tenants did not sign and those letters came back. That's fine, because I already taped it to their door. And these were the little 1-bedrooms. And so they had to go through that door. That's the only door to their unit. So I know they got the notice. And so anyway, and again, it wasn't a huge increase. I only did a 3%. But like you, these units, when I bought them, the tenants came with the units and the rent hadn't been increased in years. And so I just put it into my system that I was going to do a 3% increase every year until I got them up to what the market it bears in that city for a 1-bedroom unit. So anyhow, that's how I'm handling it, and it's working really well. And then the best thing, if you haven't done this yet, is I put everyone, I did talk to Tammy about this. We did put everyone that I have over on Inago, which is that rental program. Inago, Cozy, both of them are very similar in what they do. And so that I just went ahead and increased the rent inside my Inago program. And so when the invoice went out to them from Inago, it went out with the increase. So they couldn't say, well, I didn't know. And then I marked my Inago not to accept partial payments. So they couldn't pay the lower version, saying that they didn't notice that they didn't see the notice or they never got the notice or whatever. They had to pay the full amount or not pay at all. Those were their only 2 choices. And it just eliminated all of the emotion out of that for me. And then if anybody is late paying their rent, the Inago automatically sends the late fees out to them. And again, they can't pay their next month's rent until they catch up their late fees from the last month if they have late fees. So it's just taken the emotion totally out of collecting rent for me. It's a beautiful thing.
What is the program called? I've heard a lot of programs, but not that one. And Inago?
There's two that are that I know of that are free to the landlord. One is Inago, it's INNAGO, and the other one is Cozy, which is COZY. And both of those are very, very similar. If you do a comparison, Inago versus Cozy, there's only a couple of differences. Inago seems to pay the landlord the rent a little sooner than what Cozy pays. Seems like there's a day gap or something. There's a day late on Cozy, but they have reasons on why. It's all in their program. But anyway, I chose Inago, and I'm very happy with it. The answer, I get comments all the time, Kathy, which is the best one? Is it Inago? Is it Cozy? I said it's whichever one you're going to use is the best one, because it is a lifesaver. So anyway, so that's my and again, I don't have an affiliate, and I don't get paid for either one of those programs, but it has certainly made my life a lot easier.
Yeah, I went with Inago because you can customize the application questions. Cozy does not allow you to have that. The difference with Cozy.
There's a difference I didn't know. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, and Cozy will self-market your rental, but since Kathy brought on what was it, a couple weeks ago or months ago, the Inago representative in the mastermind group, which was very awesome. Thank you, Kathy. They're bringing that on, so that's coming. So Inago, I think, beats Cozy out tenfold. Especially once they get that feature.
I'm very happy with Inago. Again, it's the first one I came across, and I went with it, and I love it. I have 30 doors, and I am no longer chasing rent. It's again, it's a beautiful thing. Any other questions? I want to thank everybody so much for coming tonight. Again, for those of you that maybe didn't hear at the very beginning, we lost our dear Stephanie. Gosh, has it only been a week, Kyle? We're still in shock. She became sick, went to the hospital, a couple, 2.5 weeks maybe in the hospital, and she passed away. We were all expecting her to come home any day, and she passed away instead. And so Kyle and I have been in contact with her sisters, and so we're getting everything kind of squared away. The sisters are doing all the heavy lifting, and we're just kind of there for support as best we can. But I am starting a nonprofit. I don't have the paperwork done yet, but we are going to give away, the Happy House Hunters is going to be giving away a scholarship once a year for someone to get their real estate license, because Stephanie just loved the real estate profession. She was a great real estate agent. A lot of us used her for our properties, and so now we're looking at Kyle to help us out there. And Kyle's been in the trenches with us all along, so thank goodness, because there's really a gap with missing Stephanie. But anyhow, we're going to start the nonprofit and give away a scholarship, and there's going to be opportunities if anyone wants to donate to that scholarship fund. We'll make that available. That will also be on the platform of the Kathy Bitter International Academy. There's already an icon there now. If you want to go take a peek at it, it's already in the platform. And again, that's Kathy Bitter International Academy. So I do want to mention that. This particular meetup, we do the first Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock. The mastermind meets the second Friday at 5 for boots on the ground. We're hoping to get out there. We're not ready yet to go out in person, but we love going out in person. And to David's point, we get to, look in all the closets and poke our head in all of the crawl spaces, and we get to actually look at stuff in real time and can explain to some of the new folks that are just starting to invest what it is we're looking for and how we go about looking for that. So we can't wait to get back out there. We've been at a disadvantage for a year now of doing all of that on Zoom. And then the third Monday, we meet at 2 o'clock on Zoom, and that's a question and answer. So you can tap in from anywhere, from your phone or your laptop, desktop, wherever you are, and bring your questions to the table. So, and then as all of you know, you can contact me anytime throughout the month, and I respond as quick as I can to any of your questions or concerns. I try to just make myself available all the time for the folks that are getting into the industry, because it's so important to have somebody in your corner. So anyway, with that, I'm going to say goodnight. Derek, thank you so much for joining. Kyle, thank you for being there. David, thank you for letting me put you on the spot. And Chris, thank you for letting me put you on the spot a little bit and sharing. So I'm really happy that everybody joined in. I really appreciate it. And is there any other questions or comments before we go? Jason, thank you. And Debbie, thank you. And we'll see everybody next time.